Okay, hello, welcome in everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is College Football Tailgate with Dan Watkins and John McKechnie. I'm Dan, he's John. Thank you so much for watching. We're both very excited to get this thing going. I think, John, we might as well do a little like college orientation thing here to start, kind of like a what we want to do with this, who we are, why you should listen to us and why you should scream and yell and write nasty comments and all that kind of stuff too. But anyways, buddy, fall camps open up in less than a week across the country. Perfect time to get going. We're going to talk ACC today. How are you, man? I know you're like locked in and ready to go, but how's the summer been? And are you ready for football?
I'm so ready for football. It feels like it's here. We're past the MLB All-Star break, and that always is kind of like a little bit of a signal that college football is right around the corner. And yeah, I mean, basically, we have known each other in this space for a while now. I think like almost 5 years at this point. We used to do the college football show over on Monkey Knife Fight, RIP. And from there, like we've always just kind of like still talked college football. Like even if that show evaporated, you couldn't stop us from talking ball. And, we figured that this would be a good year to kind of go in our own direction and fire something up for everybody, a podcast that can be, kind of like a casual catch-all of all your college football interests. We'll be, previewing the week ahead. We'll be breaking down the week prior, all that good stuff. But, right now it's kind of like a summer crash course type of thing, syllabus day. And I think the ACC is a good place to start, alphabetically at least.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I was going with. I love a good alphabetical order for sure. But yeah, we've done so many shows together over the years, but this is different because this is ours. And this is something that we can actually take ownership of. And I'm very excited about that. But we both have big time backgrounds in the gambling space with content, just general reporting, fantasy, all that kind of stuff. So I think we can kind of just throw that all into a big crock pot, let that simmer, and just let it we'll see where the season takes us, but I'm pumped for that. And it sounds like you are too. So we might as well just get right into this because this conference, the ACC, it feels like they're down and they might be down bad. Before we just start getting into these teams individually, just like if you can like look into the future a little bit, like 5 years from now, is there any program in this conference besides Clemson that can actually threaten for a national championship?
I would think it's probably Miami would be the only one. I think like the NIL backing is strong enough. I think that Mario Cristobal, I used to be kind of like the leader of his fan club, especially when he was at Oregon. Maybe a little bit less so now after what we've seen thus far at Miami. It feels like there's always like the boneheaded loss or two that kind of derails their season. You don't have to look too far. Just the last two seasons, the game against Georgia Tech 2 years ago, that
Yep.
with the could have just nailed it type of play. That was interesting. But as far as like the backing is concerned, I think Miami has it. Interested to see, with all the money in Texas, SMU they crashed the party last year. They made the college football playoff in the first year of expansion. It's going to take a while to build the trenches, I think, as far as SMU goes, and but they do have the deep pockets to maybe start to get some of these bigger offensive and defensive line recruits because I think it's pretty ready made as far as like their appeal when it comes to like quarterbacks and skill position guys. They've had a really good history, especially over the last 10 years or so, of churning out some legitimate talent in that regard. So that pipeline can still exist. And then, the big question is, is Florida State a sleeping giant, or are they going the way of like a Nebraska?
Absolutely. I mean, Mike Norvell might very much be on the hot seat this season. We'll definitely talk about that when we dive into Florida State. But I just wanted to pull up the betting odds here for the national championship this season. I think we'll just use FanDuel because I like how they have everything very nicely and neatly organized there. But as you can see, Clemson's sitting there at 12-1. They're, I think, seventh best on the board here. And then you got to go a ways down until you find Miami, Florida, who is down to 38-1 here. And then after that, I think it might be, yeah, Louisville and SMU, 85 to 1, 95 to 1. So definitely some big time tiers in this conference this season. Clemson, people seem to be very high on, and rightfully so, with a lot of returning talent. You got a great quarterback who is his Heisman odds, he's right up towards the top of the odds board on that as well. Dabo Swinney, we know, can coach with the best of them when he has the proper talent. And they actually use the transfer portal for once as well, a little bit heading into this season. So, John, let's head right into Clemson here, right? They've won 8 out of the last 10 ACC titles, including last year where they beat SMU in that title game. Their win total this season is at 9.5. It is heavily juiced to the over at minus 210, I believe. To win the conference, Clemson is without a doubt your favorite. You see them right there almost at even money, plus 110 on FanDuel. I think this is minus everywhere else. So you can get a nice number there on FanDuel if you're looking to back the Tigers here. And then a big drop off as you see Miami behind them, Louisville, SMU, Georgia Tech, and so on. So most returning production in college football, Cade Klubnik, third season as the starter. Garrett Riley, third season with him as the offensive coordinator. I think the expectations are sky high for that combination there. Um, they have all the makings of a national title contender, but I'm almost wondering now that we're getting to the point, are they overhyped at this point?
It's interesting that like the discourse is very much so that hey, like this is a Clemson team that can and should compete for the national championship. What it's such a great value to see them at 12 to 1 at FanDuel to win it all. And the books are like sticking with that. I think they opened it at 20 to 1, like back in January or whatever. And it's moved obviously, but there was a lot of room for those odds to move now sitting at the 12 to 1 number. Other books, I think are a little bit shorter, maybe even like 9 to 1 at some shops. But regardless, it is interesting to me that Clemson, is kind of sitting outside the other realm of national title contenders, whether it be, Texas, where there's a lot unsettled, Ohio State, where there's a lot unsettled. Clemson, there's so much continuity with this team. I think that's like the driving force for it. Klubnik, I think, is really showing to be the guy that they recruited, as one of the big QB prospects in his class. The defense, I think, if you look back to the years where Clemson was winning or coming close to winning the national championship, they also had stellar defensive fronts, particularly the front seven. They definitely have that this year. Peter Woods and another guy off the edge projected to be first rounders. They have a projected first rounder at corner as well. And then another part of that Clemson DNA that was helping them win a lot was their receivers, right? And it felt like the last couple of years, where were they? Like they just didn't really have anyone that really scared you. Like it's like Amari Rogers, is that really like the best we're doing here? Now it feels like that, this mix of Wesco, Antonio Williams, TJ Moore, Tyler Brown, all those guys are sick. The question for you, Dan, when it comes to this team is the weak spot. What happens with that backfield? Because there really is no known commodity back there.
Yeah, so let's look at their schedule here. 9.5 is the win total. If I'm going to play Clemson, I would go to FanDuel and you can go right to an alt win and go right to 11, and you can get them at plus
This
120.
one goes to 11.
Yeah, exactly. Clemson's schedule, I think this is set up for them to really run the table here, especially if they get off on the right foot and beat LSU. A little teaser for when we do week one. This might be my favorite spot of that entire weekend. Clemson at home, laying 3.5 against LSU. We know how Brian Kelly just tends to have foot and mouth in week one with the LSU Tigers, but we'll get to that later. This schedule, it does set up very nicely here. I mean, look at this. No Miami. You got SMU at home. You have to go to Louisville on a Friday night. That could be a tough spot there. Florida State's on there as well. That Georgia Tech game could be very interesting, but I think this sets up very nicely for Clemson, especially if they win that week one game against LSU. I'm going to be very happy having that 11 win ticket in my pocket.
Yeah, it's hard to see the trip up. Like the non-con games, bookending the schedule are kind of like the possible trip up spots. But it feels like in recent vintage that they go back and forth with the Palmetto Bowl. Like South Carolina got them last year. Obviously, I think
Right.
Clemson gets them back this year, and I think we'll talk about this with the SEC preview as well. But the Beamer pattern seems to be come out of nowhere, finish season strong, have lots of hype, blow it completely the next season. So we're at the blow it completely the next season part of that cycle potentially. We'll see if Sellers is different than Rattler. I think he is, but regardless, I think that Clemson has a really good shot of running the table with this particular schedule.
So let's move on. Let's go to SMU. Let's talk about the Mustangs here. They were the runner-up in the ACC last season. They went 8-0 in conference play in the regular season. Their win total this year is sitting at 8.5. I'll scroll down here on FanDuel for us and find it. Just so you guys can see the odds. Yep, we got -130 to the over for the ponies, and then 8.5 to the under at slightly plus money. This is one of those things, John, where it's kind of like doubt Rhett Lashley if you dare. I mean, since he took over this program, they've changed conferences. It hasn't really seemed to matter. They just keep getting better each season. They have a healthy amount of returning talent coming back this year. I think 12 starters or something like that. Um, but the schedule this year, and I'll pull that up for us right now, does crank up. For SMU this season. You got this game against Baylor, which I think could be a very sneaky spot in September. They have to go to TCU for the Iron Skillet at Clemson. Miami's on the schedule this year. Louisville again. The big difference here from last year is that Clemson and Miami are on here where they weren't a year ago. They hit the portal hard. I just feel like this team, this program is a clear tier below Clemson and Miami if Miami has their heads on straight. How do you feel with this 8.5 and the Mustangs this season?
I like this program. I like the direction that they're going in, and like I'm glad that they're in the ACC. I think that's a good fit for them, but I think this is the year that it maybe comes back down to reality just a bit for them. I think that schedule, the non-con is tough. I mean, I honestly think they'll be happy to split the Baylor and TCU duo there in the first 4 weeks of the season. And so, like that's a difficult start. And then the ACC slate is no joke either. I love Kevin Jennings, but they lose so much around him. The defense is basically starting from scratch as well. And one of the big pieces from last year, Brashard Smith, he's gone. He was really like a huge factor for that SMU offense a year ago. He's no longer there. And RJ Maryland was coming into last season as one of the best tight ends in college football, suffers the injury. We don't really know what he looks like here in 2025. That's a big question mark, especially when you lose a bunch of the receiving talent from last year as well. So a little bit too much unknown for me and we're too new into this era for SMU where you can count on them to not rebuild but reload. So I think this is a rebuild year. Give me under 8.5.
Yeah, I'd lean towards the under as well, especially if you got a nice plus money number sitting there like you do at FanDuel right now. Just kind of the way the buys shape up for SMU also don't really play into their favor. They're going to have those Clemson, it's Syracuse, Stanford, Clemson, Wake, Miami, BC, all in a row with like buys on the sandwich bread, and then that's the meat in the middle. It's I think this is going to be a real reality check for them, and it's gonna send a lot of people to just scream fluke from last year,
Yeah.
with that run to the playoff. I don't think they're gonna get back there. I'd lean towards the under. Yeah, I just don't like the way the schedule sets up for them this season.
No.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Louisville. 8.5, another team at that 8.5 win total. What you'll notice with the ACC is that there is a lot of teams just right in that 7.5, 8.5 win total range. Louisville is another one. It's year 3 for Jeff Brom at the helm there at his alma mater. And once again, it's just pure chaos from the transfer portal for the Louisville Cardinals this year. 28 transfers out, 30 in. Miller Moss is one of them that's coming in. I'm fascinated by this move, John. This guy was big time hype last year going into that season at USC. Didn't really live up to that at all. I believe he got benched in November, but now he goes across the country to play for the Brown Boys. And I'm very interested to see if the change of scenery is going to do big things for Miller Moss here. He's a quick, just get the ball out kind of passer. I think Jeff Brom's going to be able to get the most out of him. 9+ wins for Jeff Brom so far in both years at Louisville. But as I pull up this schedule, it's a little tough, especially towards the end there with Clemson at SMU. You got Kentucky at Miami this year, at Pittsburgh's never easy. James Madison can be a tough out as well. What do you make of the Cards?
Louisville's my dark horse in this one. I think that they can make it to the ACC championship game against Clemson. It's funny how in this particular era with transfer portal, like things can be so different from year to year, but it seems like at the same time, like Louisville has leaned into that, and yet they have like a consistent sort of archetype or theme that they go with. Year one, Jack Plummer at quarterback. Year two, Tyler Shuck, who's like older than we are, playing quarterback there. Miller Moss, a seasoned guy at quarterback. He comes in now for his 1 year bump before jumping to the NFL. So the offense, it just by virtue of Brom being the architect of it, I think Louisville becomes this destination for pocket passers in particular, and they've got really sick receivers. Chris Bell, I think, is a total difference maker. Colin Lacey, a player I like a lot, and my goodness, their backfield is sick as well. Isaac Brown was a huge smash as a freshman running back last year, one of the best, if not the best, freshman running backs in college football. Last year, his backup is also extremely good. So we're looking at an extremely explosive run game to complement that pass game. Man, there's a lot to like about this Louisville team. I could see them going into Miami and winning that game. I see them making it to the ACC championship game. I don't know if I feel confident in taking them 8-1. I just think that Clemson's a little bit too good to be unseated in this conference this year. But if there is a team a little further down that, especially one that isn't Miami, I think it's Louisville.
Yeah, I mean, we know the story with Jeff Brom and his programs, right? They're going to be able to score just about at will and with anybody. Last season, they averaged 36 and a half points per game on offense, which is a very big number. Defense, though, they're allowing, in the mid 20s. And that includes a couple of shutouts, I believe, too, as well. Yeah, against Austin P at the beginning of the season. They just hang around. And when Louisville's an underdog, especially if you're getting close to a touchdown with them, they're definitely a spot to look at because they can just put up points in a hurry, especially in garbage time as well.
Yes, 100%. So that sums them up really well. Like that they're a live dog anytime that it sets up that way. The defense does concern me though. Absolutely. I think like they're like 45th in defensive SP plus this year. That's preseason from Bill Connolly. So that lends itself to being a pretty big question mark when you weigh it out against the rest of the Power Four.
All right. So that brings us to the program, the school that I believe is going to be the most fascinating team to watch in the country this season, the North Carolina Tar Heels. Bill Belichick and his girlfriend are there in Chapel Hill. Whether they're good or terrible, I mean, this is going to be must watch every single week. Whether it's the off the field nonsense that's probably going to continue with these two, or just if Bill still has his fastball, which is something I'm very interested to see, if he can actually shape this program and maybe make North Carolina a dark horse here in the ACC this season. But John, I love what the schedule makers did. Props to them, putting them in a standalone island spot Monday night, Labor Day. UNC, TCU, Bill on national television as he makes his return to the sideline. I mean, this is fantastic stuff. But what should we actually expect on the field here with the Heels?
Well, I'm gonna throw this one right back to you with an alternate market that I just invented in my head.
Okay.
Um, let's get some odds on Jordan being on the sideline during a UNC game in like a Connor Stallions type of disguise.
I think she will be. I think she'll have
Probably
the
undisguised.
I think, oh yeah, no, that girl, there one thing about that girl, she loves attention and she loves drawing attention to herself. There will be no camouflage or costume or the glasses with the nose and the mustache, none of that. She will be decked out in her high heel boots and her blue jacket down to her ankles. Like it is, she's going to be there and it's going to be a spectacle. I cannot wait to watch this, whether they're good or bad.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I feel like I want to give the floor to you because being a native New Englander who loves the New England Patriots, loves Bill Belichick. The Belichick shrine just out of frame on your camera there.
That's around me somewhere.
What do you think of this team? I feel like you've got kind of a little bit more sauce to your UNC take this year than I might.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where there might just be way too much new here for this thing to work right away. But then I look at this schedule, and let me pull it up here for it. I'll share my screen again. Let's head over to the North Carolina schedule, if I can find it here, because it's blocked by, of course, because I'm sharing my screen. There's Duke.
One tab over.
There we go. Of course, it's in the middle, right where it says screen share, and it's blocking it. But anyways, when you look at this North Carolina Tar Heels and their schedule here, 7.5's their win total, and what I don't see on this schedule, John, is Louisville, Miami, SMU, no Georgia Tech. You got the Clemson game on there. That's at home. Um, I do think if Belichick is locked in and focused, which the reports lately out of Chapel Hill do say that he is, I do think Bill's going to be able to shape this team and they're going to be competitive here. I mean, especially if they can get TCU in week one, then look at the Charlotte, Richmond. Then if you're 3-0 heading into UCF, I if Bill's it's just going to come down to what is Bill's focus level and his commitment here. Is he actually like really still trying, or is he the guy from the past couple of years in New England where he's making his defensive coach, his offensive coordinator, just wanting to be surrounded by his buddies, telling Jordan to wear red pants so he can pick her out in training camp and all that kind of stuff. So if Bill's focused and committed, I can see North Carolina being like an 8-4 and maybe contending to get to that ACC title game.
I feel like, this particular era of college football, it seems so not what Bill would be into. Like
Right.
there's so much like ego management of kids that are
Yeah.
18 to 22 years old that can't commit to their breakfast plans, let alone staying with the coach for more than a year or even an off season. So it's amazing to me that this ended up being his chosen path. But UNC with the deep coffers made it an easy call, as it were. If he is focused, like you're saying, game day, like I don't know if like there's going to be another coach that can really match wits with Bill even at this stage. It's a
Right.
matter of like, does UNC have the talent? And there are a lot of Patriots teams that maybe weren't more talented other than Brady than their opponents, but they were so much more disciplined. So if you can kind of get that Patriots DNA of attention to detail and focus with this UNC team, then they're a team that can be really lively. But I'm gonna have to just wait and see here. I think that's a lot to ask of a bunch of college kids. Honestly, the Belichick way.
I think a lot of people are in that same boat with you. But the one thing I do know is that this defense was terrible last season. They allowed 34 or more points in 5 of 7 losses a year ago. One thing I know about Bill Belichick is if he is locked in, that's going to change. The defense will be much better this year. Bill's going to have them playing much better fundamental football, I would assume, in Chapel Hill there. But yeah, 6-7 a year ago, we got 7.5 is that win total. We just showed you the schedule too. It does set up nicely for North Carolina that if they can start playing with some momentum, I do think they can get to that 8-win mark. So that brings us actually one more question. Do you think Bill Belichick makes it through the season?
Oh boy, I'm saying yes right now, but I think the door is totally open for this thing to go way off the rails here. But right now, as of July 23rd, I'm saying that year one, Bill makes it to the end. I don't know how long this thing lasts, but for right now, it will stay on the tracks.
A tentative yes, it
A
sounds like.
tentative yes, yeah.
Verbal commit we'll go with. Nothing in writing, that's for sure. But that could definitely be something we're going to be checking in, I think, on a weekly basis. Does Pablo Torre have any more stories coming out? What happened in North Carolina this weekend definitely could be a regularly occurring segment on this
Think
program.
so.
So we talked about North Carolina. Now we got to talk about Duke, right? That's just kind of how it works. So
Hmm.
Duke's win total this season sitting at 6.5. 3 straight 8-win seasons for the Duke Blue Devils, which caught me off guard as I was doing my research and my prep here for this. It's year two for Manny Diaz. Obviously, the first two 8-win seasons there were for Mike Elko, but we know with Diaz, the defense is going to be solid. The way this schedule sets up for Duke, John, I think 7 wins isn't really out of the question. I think this is going to be a very interesting team. This is definitely a school that I think a lot of people are marking as like that kind of like bigger ticket dark horse to like get to that ACC title game and maybe even win the conference this season. How do you feel about Duke?
Well, they are the inverse of Louisville. Like they're not going to have that explosive offense necessarily, but it's very much a Manny Diaz team. But you know, r r- what it all boils down to is like, do they have like the goods potentially to make that run to the ACC championship game? And I think again, it'd be different than the way that Louisville does it, but Duke definitely can. I mean, that defense was nasty last year, and I think it's going to be again. The offense is one that it's very efficient. It's kind of like just slow paced, doesn't make mistakes, and I think if anyone is. And I wouldn't blame them. Slightly unfamiliar with Duke's quarterback situation. They got a ton out of Malik Murphy last year, who was a transfer in from Texas. They showed him the door. Like you're not really used to seeing Duke be like, "Hey, bub, like we've got better options coming in here. We're making plays in the NIL streets." They did that for one Darian Mensah out of Tulane, who had a what I thought was one of the best, if not the best, freshman quarterback seasons in college football last year. I will miss him with the wave, but Duke football to me is inoffensive. It's fine. So I will be pulling for Mensa and the Blue Devils this year on the gridiron. And I think that they do kind of have the goods here to make some noise here.
That's actually kind of wild because we do have a nice revenge game spot potentially there for Menza. Week 3 at Tulane in prime time. Duke, Tulane, prime time, Saturday night in September. I mean, does it get any better than that?
Well, what if Jake Retzlaff gets cleared for that? Then all of a sudden it's like a primo quarterback matchup on Saturday night there.
Yeah, as you can see, they have that booked for ESPN2 right now. Maybe that gets or bumped over to the mothership if we get some quarterback action there going into that one. But yeah, Duke is interesting. 6.5. It's heavily juiced to the over. And as you're looking at this schedule right now, guys, once again, this is another one where you don't see SMU, Miami, Louisville. Obviously, Clemson's on there, but Cal is on there as well. I mean, there are a lot of winnable games here for Duke and the Blue Devils, especially if they can keep the opposing team scoring down, which typically a Manny Diaz defense tends to do.
Exactly.
All right, moving on. Let's keep moving here. I think we're going to do two more this week, and then we'll do the other half next week when we do part two here. But let's talk about the Pittsburgh Panthers, right? They return a lot of their top playmakers on offense, 7 starters on defense, too, for the Panthers. Pat Narduzzi has been bowl eligible in 8 of 10 seasons at the helm there in Pittsburgh. Their win total this season sitting at 6.5. Bit of a tougher schedule here, John, for Pitt, especially in that back end. That 3 game stretch there to close this out. Notre Dame at Georgia Tech, Miami at home. Really tough. I think I would just stay away from this total and just find somewhere else to invest my money.
Yeah, I'm going to go kind of week to week with this team because they were so Jekyll and Hyde last year. But um, it, I'm not like the biggest Narduzzi guy, but I love and respect when a leopard can change its spots. Like Pitt was kind of getting real stale real quick. And last year they're like, all right, we're going to raid Western Carolina's football program, and we're going to get a lot better because of it. And they did. Desmond Reed was one of the most explosive running backs in college football last year, the offensive coordinator, kind of running the ship there. And Eli Holstein, a guy they brought in from Alabama to play quarterback, was awesome when healthy last year. It's kind of a no-name group of pass catchers, but the offensive system, I think, is one that we can trust in. And Narduzzi, he can scheme up some defense. So Pitt with offense, I think it is interesting, and it's a team where kind of like what you were saying with Louisville, but in a different way. It's like if they're catching like 7 or more points in a given week, it's like Pitt can find a way to make that game really weird and uncomfortable. So I think that, but like you said, I'm probably not hammering this total one way or the other, but my eye and my attention is definitely very much on Pitt. I think they're going to be a lot of fun this year.
Yeah, it's one of those things. If Holstein's healthy, they're going to be able to score, right? They averaged over 41 points per game with him last season. They started off 7-0. They lost six straight to end the year once he got hurt. But they're going to be able to score. I saw Bill Connolly on ESPN describe Pitt as volatile, a volatile football team. I think that is the perfect way to describe them. Most of these games with the Pittsburgh Panthers are just pure chaos and a lot of fun to watch. And it's one of those things. They're like that quintessential CW team, right? You forget the ACC has that CW contract that they got going on. They throw like their C tier game on, but usually it's Pitt, and usually they're just a lot of fun to have on. And like you're like third monitor when you're
Yeah.
watching football on Saturday.
You're like, whoa, wait a second. Get over there. Get over there. Pitt's doing something weird.
Yeah, exactly. It's just crazy there in Pittsburgh. And let's round things out here with Syracuse. 5.5 is the win total for the Orange this year. Fran Brown got them to 10 wins a year ago. He had Kyle McCord come in. McCord is on to bigger and better things. I think he's somewhere in the NFL. I think he got drafted.
Probably.
I feel like he's somewhere in a camp this, but anyways, he's not with Syracuse. That's my point. Steve Angeli is transferring over from Notre Dame. Um, Fran Brown and the Orange took advantage of a very favorable schedule a year ago. This year, though, it is much more difficult. I will pull it up there in a second for us. There's question marks on offense and defense. John, as you wrote in our rundown, this is a great like test of is Fran Brown legit this year. So take it away. What do you expect out of the Orange?
Right, exactly. So Fran Brown, I think, has done more with this program than anyone could have anticipated. He wasn't even like a coordinator at Georgia. He just, gets hired from Syracuse. They just wanted some Georgia up there in upstate New York, and it's worked out really well. But like you said, kind of caught lightning in a bottle last year with McCord and Trevor Pena and Aronde Gadsden, and the running back Allen. So all that's kind of gone. Pena's over at Penn State. The rest of those guys off to the next level. So I believe that Fran Brown can be like this program builder that makes Syracuse an interesting team going forward. But kind of like a poor man's version of SMU in the sense that I don't trust them to reload on the fly. I think this rebuild year for them, I don't see them making a bowl game.
Yeah, look at this schedule right now, guys, as I got this up for us. They open up with Tennessee. I think is that in the
Oof,
Georgia? Is that at Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta?
I forget. Probably.
I think it is. That's that noon kick on Saturday, Labor Day weekend. You got at Clemson before September is over. Duke comes up to the Carrier Dome, at SMU, at Georgia Tech, at Miami, at Notre Dame. With a 5.5, John, I can pick out seven losses here pretty easily.
And it doesn't pain me to say this, but like that UConn game's no joke either. Like Mora has those guys like you can't really sleepwalk past UConn either. So and
Yeah.
then that you're kind of licking your wounds after Tennessee beats the brakes off of you. Like look out a little bit for that one in week two, and then we're kind of looking at disaster season if we're looking at an 0-2 start for the Qs.
I mean, look at that October. That is a brutal stretch there for Syracuse. Yeah, and as you head over to FanDuel there, under is -170, heavily juiced there. That's steaming probably even more, and probably will even more so before the season finally gets here. All right, so let's put a pin in that for the ACC teams, and we will come back and we will do the rest of them. Obviously, we got to talk about Miami, Florida State, Georgia Tech, NC State, and so on. We'll do that next week with you guys. So if you could subscribe to the channel, it would mean the world to us at College Football Tailgate on YouTube. I believe we're going to be on Twitter at CFB Tailgate 25 and on TikTok at CFB Tailgate. So the subscription would mean so much if you could just drop us a follow or whatever. It doesn't cost you anything for the wonderful insights that we will have as this season rolls along here. And this, to close things out, John, I thought we would just do like a little kind of like late show, David Letterman style top 10 lists here
Okay.
throughout the summer, just to kind of get the juices flowing, get the wheels turning there, and get just show that full display of brain power for the listeners and the viewers here. And let's just jump right in and let's do top 10 quarterbacks heading into 2025. If you want to start at 10 and work your way to one, go right ahead.
All righty. At 10, give me Talon Green out of Arkansas. I love the way that this kid plays. brutal schedule for Arkansas this year. He's going to have to put on the cape a lot on Saturdays this year, but I think he can. Even if the record, the win losses don't show up, Taylor Green is legit, really fun. Up at 9, give me DJ Lagway. I am starting to drink the Kool-Aid on this kid. I think there were moments last year where I understood where the hype was coming from. I think a year of development. He was very raw last year. A full off season, really good receivers. You get Trey Wilson back. Should be interesting. Another team with a brutal schedule, but I like DJ Lagway. Next up, maybe controversial. Arch hasn't really done anything yet, so Arch gets to be number 8 for me
Down at
for
8.
now.
All right.
Well, it's like okay, like you carved up Miss State. Congrats. Number 7, Haynes King. Now that's a guy who I like the cut of his jib. That's a guy that can win you a football game. He's physical. He's not raw. I like the way that Haynes King plays. I wish he was not playing for Georgia Tech as a Georgia alum. Next up, give me John Mateer at 6, going to Oklahoma. Bigger test for him after being a star at Wazoo last year, but I do like Mateer a good bit. Nice dual threat quarterback. Lenora Sellers with the rec specs. Gotta love him. This is a huge year for him. I think if everything goes right, we're talking about a first rounder in the NFL draft, but a lot to go before we're settled on that. Sam Levitt out of Arizona State would be my next guy. Really impressive last year. Now, no Cam Scatterby. Time for him to put up or shut up. Him and Jordan Tyson should be an electric show every single Saturday. Drew Aller, kind of go back and forth with him. Last year wasn't amazing, especially after a really good sophomore year, but I think that this year will be better. This is Penn State's chance, with him being back in the fold. Give me Aller at 3, and then 2 and 1. They get to play each other in week 1, so that's nice. Give me Nuss right now, Garrett Nussmeyer as my number 2 quarterback of the LSU Tigers, going into the other Death Valley to face Cade Klubnik and the Clemson Tigers. For really that's the big thing for that matchup is who gets to be number 1 on my quarterback list between Garrett Nussmeyer and Cade Klubnik. So we're looking forward to that.
Awesome. Love it. A lot of the same names here on my list. I'll just rifle through them really quick. Number 10, someone you didn't mention. I would love to know your thoughts, though. I'm going Fernando Mendoza at Indiana. Coach Sig always has an all-conference caliber quarterback. The dude's got a cannon for an arm, transferring over from Cal. I think there's going to be big things for Mendoza, and I think he's someone that you could definitely see his draft stock rise throughout the season there. Number 9, notice you didn't mention this guy either. It might be a little personal bias, but I'm going to go Carson Beck. I mean, the stock has taken such a hit for so many different reasons, but I think this marriage with Shannon Dawson down there in Coral Gables is going to be a good thing for him as long as there's no off-field distractions, which always is a question with Mr. Beck. But I do like him in Miami. I do think he's going to be able to put up some gaudy numbers there for the Canes. Number 8, I'm going Haynes King. A lot of the same stuff that you mentioned. Big question mark with him, though, is health. If he's healthy, he's going to be one of the more fun quarterbacks to watch in the country. Yeah, and he's going to stuff the stat box if he's healthy.
Oh,
Number 7, I put Nussmeyer at 7. I am not as high on this guy as a lot of other people are. I know he's going to put up big time numbers, but the turnovers are an issue for me. He had 15 of them a year ago. I want to see him cut that way down before I bump him up my list. Number 6, I'm going Drew Aller here at 6. Everything is there for Drew Aller to have one of those storybook movie kind of seasons, but I think he's ultimately going to be the reason why Penn State does not win the national championship.
woo.
Lost them. We saw him throw some bad interceptions against Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl a year ago in that semifinal. Number 5, I'm going DJ Lagway. I'm buying into. I mean, he flashed as a true freshman a year ago. The dude's a beast. Little bit of an accuracy and turnover issue with him, but I do think he's going to be able to cut that down, and then the legs are just going to be able to take games over for him. Similar guy in Lenora Sellers, I have at number 4. He's just awesome, so much fun to watch. I want to see him and see if he can actually elevate this South Carolina program this season. So a lot to watch there with him. Number 3, I got Arch at 3. The talent's there. I mean, you just like you can't deny that like he's going to be at the top of everybody's list probably by the end of the year, but really haven't seen much. As you mentioned, he beat up on a terrible Mississippi State team a year ago. It's like it's getting to the point where the Arch, where it's just like, is there too much hype around this kid? But I
I think
mean,
so, but you mentioned my personal bias earlier about Beck. I think my most of my ire is directed at Texas right now.
Texas, I mean. And rightfully so. I mean, we could be entering like this like golden era of Texas football here in the next few years, but
I don't
we'll
love
get to
it.
that. We'll get to that in a few weeks. Number two, I got Sam Levitt at number two. I love what he did last year. I know Scadaboo's gone, coming off a great season. As you mentioned, Jordan Tyson's healthy. That's going to be electric and a lot of fun to watch. I think Sam Levitt's going to put up big time numbers in the Big 12 this year. And then number one, got to go Cade Klubnik. I mean, it's chalky, but for a reason. Year three with his offensive coordinator. He's a dual threat, strongest wide receiver room he's had in his time at Clemson. I think he's going to put up big time numbers, and I wouldn't hate taking a Cade Klubnik Heisman ticket as well at 9-1.
Yeah, he's one of the few like Heisman bets that I can really kind of get behind at the current odds right now. That Heisman's one where I might kind of like wait and see how like the start of the season goes. Whereas I'm trying to get as many national championship and conference tickets preseason right now. I'm actually going to the great state of Iowa, going to fire away
Get some corn,
for the rest of this week.
corn and bet slips. What a
That's
combo!
right.
There you go. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us this week. Part one of our ACC preview. We'll be back sometime early next week to do the second half of the ACC, and then we'll keep rolling with the rest of the Power Four, some G5, Notre Dame, and all that other stuff as we get closer to kickoff here. But thank you so much for watching. John, pleasure as always. We'll talk to you in a few days. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button and tell a friend to tell a friend. All right, very good. All right,
Dope.
perfect. 40 minutes. Perfect.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that was great. Great pacing, everything.